Hey, checking in with chapters 5 and 6 of Dtrnstn Baby by Terry Peters. Um, these two chapters have probably the big conversation, which at least the start of the big conversation, which is bringing together um, all three of the main characters. I was going to say all three women. Ames, I guess at the moment, is a man, so. But bringing them all together, and Katrina and Reese really having a good, frank, complicated discussion about, why do you want to be a mother? Um, and Reese being like, that's one of those questions that a cis woman would never have to answer. I want to because it's my biological clock tells me I want to. I'm mother to all these people, but I'm not allowed to have a biological clock because I'm a trans woman. And Katrina coming back with, well, as a woman of color, I come from a culture where women of color having children wasn't valued either. That her grandmother had to kind of fight for that the whole thing of welfare queens and all that. Um, you know, put it all into question. So you're talking from like a you're emulating, you're striving for kind of cis white woman kind of status. Um, and it's like, yes, I guess I am. Um, but there's still the biological thing of like, even a woman of color, it's like you're a woman, you know, of course you want a child, you're allowed to want one, whereas as a trans woman, not. And there's a lot more going on there, and it's really a deep and interesting and thorny and uncomfortable conversation. And Reese worries that, like, oh shit, that didn't go well, and Ames, that doesn't actually do put up a very good conversation there. He definitely comes across more as a clueless dude in this conversation. um Says, well, actually no, she actually cares, because if she was disengaged and didn't care, she just would nod politely but and wouldn't say anything. She actually disagreed with you. She actually had a conversation with you. So that actually went well. It seems to be the thing. And then the next chapter, we're going back in when it was Amy and Reese's relationship, and they've been going along for a while. Reese had encouraged Amy to get a nose job, because um, it's one of those things of like, you're a trans woman and you can have a nose job to kind of make her nose a little less hawkish, and kind of makes the point that it's like, it's one of those operations that you can have. So in some ways it causes body dysmorphia because it drives people insane, that there's actually an operation out there to fix whatever the problem is, if it is actually a problem, but to fix it. Like, making the point that, like, there's also the sort of thing with big hands, but there's no operation for big hands short of, lopping off your fingers. So, people just sort of get used to it in a way. But if there's an operation for it, well, then it drives trans women crazy, because they know there's an operation that can fix it, and it's going to drive them crazy until they actually get it fixed. And Reese also is coming as the selfish thing of, if Amy gets something done, for kind of gender affirmation paid by her insurance, when she gets on the insurance, she too will be able to get stuff done, and she wants to get a vagina. Um, so there's that. Uh, Unfortunately, Reese is on a job, bumps into Stanley, who is the asshole that she was with before Amy, and ends up taking up with him again, and has been fucking him all week. Just when Amy gets the good news, and they have not been having great sex, and kind of that heat has gone out, and she's been having very hot, very wrong sex with Stanley, who is abusive and still abusive asshole, and knows that. But when Amy calls with the good news that there's this agency that's actually kind of getting more into LGBT kind of adoptions and foster care and stuff like that, and so convinces her to go. And that's kind of like they're Reese is like really agitated, really kind of being kind of silly, spinny. It's like, she's weird, being weird, and finally does come out. Yeah, I've been fucking Stanley, and Ames is like, stands up, walks out, goes into I guess a kind of a church pew where thing, and just waits until Reese leaves. So you can see that's probably the first big. This is how Reese and Amy become exes, or at least a part of it. And I guess we'll see how that. We're going to get probably more of the story of the detransition, and we know that there's a bashing that's going to happen, an assault that's going to happen. Will it be Stanley? Will it just be so many random hateful assholes out there who are just happy to beat on trans women? We will see. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, that conversation between all three, Reese, Ames, and Katrina, was really good, really interesting, enlightening, complicated, thorny. It's like it sounded like three people coming at different angles on stuff. So it's like I'm really impressed with the author of kind of getting that feel. I mean, obviously this is coming from a trans perspective, maybe not a woman of color perspective, cis woman of color perspective, but it seems to be doing a decent job of putting something up there of that. I'm sure it's even more complicated than that, and I have no clue. But yeah, okay. Detransition baby. More videos later.